All right, everyone, welcome back into another props video. Going to be touching on the top prop bets today in the MLB and NBA. Also going to be giving you guys some Masters picks. But first, I want to start out with an interesting promotion that PrizePicks has come out with. It's a Goblin promotion. And I will say that's never going to get like any more normal to say. I don't know, Goblins. I don't know if you guys ever played RuneScape back in the day. I think of that instantly. Probably shouldn't start the video with saying that I played RuneScape. But anyways, that was when I was a kid. Anyways, the Goblin today that PrizePicks is promoting here is that basically if you place let's say a $5 bet and that wins using only Goblins, you are going to get $20 back. And so that is the key word, is that they're saying that you have to win, okay? So you could maybe just place 4 2-slip bets all at $5, up to $20. And theoretically, at least one of those slips should hit. So you should be able to at least make a slight profit on that. The thing with the Goblins is that the payouts are terrible. At the same time, if PrizePicks is going to try to throw us some money, let's go ahead and try to take advantage of that. So I want to throw out with the best Goblin props that we have. And right now we only have like 3 good ones for MLB. And I just want to focus on like the easier to predict, the most easy to predict props. And so that's going to be strikeouts. And so Lance Lynn for over 4.5 strikeouts is seemingly the best prop bet that we have on the board. Now, that's only about a 1.5 for a strikeout difference between what the average sportsbook line is telling us and what the underdog line is as well. But that's seemingly a good one. And then we got Aaron Nola as well for over 4.5 strikeouts. Those are the 2 that I would want to roll with the most. But this brings up an interesting point. I'll show you guys NBA as well. This brings up an interesting point. Someone on yesterday's video for the Taco Tuesday video said, hey, with the tacos, should I be running out just Goblin bets so that I can essentially be locking in a double up? And my answer to that is no. Like yesterday, guys, if you use the picks as they're designed to be used, you either hit 4 of your bets with the early taco or 3, because the bet of the day went 4 for 6. And then in the afternoon taco, 3 of those prop bets had already been used. So you would have went 3 for 3 at least, or maybe you use all of those together with the afternoon taco, you would have hit all 5 of those bets. And so my point is, yes, the Goblins are good, but the payout is terrible. Most of the time you're only getting a double up, if that, and the percent difference is not going to be as great typically as some of the better bets that we're getting. Like some of the better bets that we're getting on the day are going to be like a 59% edge. And so that difference in the payout where we can 3x compared to 2x, to me, that's not worth it. And so that's why I never like to promote Goblins or Demons, because in the long term, they are not going to be profitable for you guys. Sure, in one-off situations, you can get there. But I just want to make that clear. Like this is not something I advocate for. At the same time, if this is working for you guys, I don't want to talk anyone out of something that's working for them. If it is, go for it. So we got these 2. If you guys want to run those out, you can do that. NBA wise, what I like to focus on is going to be the points, because again, that's going to be the most predictable. And so looking at right now, you could do PJ Washington for over 7.5 points. We can see it's basically a 50-50 to get over 11.5. Jalen Suggs we have there. So it's a little bit of a bigger edge today with NBA props. So I would be focusing more on those. One big one that we have for a big difference is going to be Paolo Banchero. That's a big prop line difference between like underdog and the Goblin line. So I'd probably prefer that one the most, honestly, even though it's not popping up as much. So like Banchero paired with Washington, or Banchero paired with Suggs, Banchero paired with Middleton. Again, it's going to be up to you guys what you do there. I just wanted to give you guys the information to make the best decision possible so that you guys can get that free money they are trying to toss out at you. Okay, so with that, let's just go ahead now and just get into the best NBA props, since we already are on NBA. And so for the NBA, we are already getting a few decent fantasy score prop bets that I'm pretty comfortable with using. So we've got Mikal Bridges for over his fantasy score, who has been playing better towards the end of the season. So that is a prop bet that you can look at. Kevin Durant for under his fantasy score of 45. That is a good one. And then we also have Donovan Mitchell for over his fantasy score. So we already have a few decent good bets there. Again, with these ones like this, guys, like the fantasy score prop bets are most likely not going to change. That's why I love calling them out to you guys, because for the most part, those prop bets are not going to change throughout the day. Where if I give you guys, hey, PJ Washington under 7.5 rebounds and assists, PrizePicks is going to see that that's an edge that we currently have over them. They're going to adjust that down. whereas the fantasy score, they're typically much slower to adjust that. So just want to make that clear. That's why I always like to default to the fantasy score prop bets, because they typically do not change. And the best ones that we have: Donovan Mitchell over fantasy score, Mikal Bridges over fantasy score, and Kevin Durant for under fantasy score. Let's jump into Underdog real quick as well. Underdog, we're getting some decent ones, but really not enough. Again, this one's probably going to get bumped, so let's just go ahead and jump into the MLB, where I will say MLB, let's start with Underdog as well there, because to me, that is where we are getting currently some of our better edges, specifically in the pitching props. So I kind of mentioned in a different video that I really like to target. Oh man, that's frustrating. Not bad. I really like to target these, and I'll touch on that in a second. I really like to target these pitching fantasy score prop bets because to me, those are going to be the easiest to predict with the hitting, whereas the hitting fantasy score, although they're going to hit at the same expected rate, you're going to just see more random variance in terms of the scoring and whatnot. Honestly, it's just a little bit more tilting, whereas the pitching fantasy score, it's much more easy for the sports books to predict said lines on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis for pitchers, because it's rooted in outs. Pitching strikeouts, earned runs, those are relatively easy to predict for sportsbooks compared to other stats like stolen bases and home runs. So I like to default to the pitching fantasy score. So we have one here with Marcus Stroman for over his fantasy score, but the one I called out was Tanner Beebe, the other pitching fantasy score prop bet, because I put this in the Discord actually already, that I liked his over fantasy score at 34.5. They have adjusted it to 35.5 because that should be the correct line. We can see the average sportsbook line would actually be giving about a 50-50 for him to get 43 fantasy score. That's pretty much saying he's not going to give up that many runs. He's not going to give up any runs, probably going to get a ton of strikeouts, going to get a win and a quality start. That's basically what the data is telling us, and the projection data agrees with it as well. So that is seemingly going to be a good bet. Still not as good of a bet though as it was like 30 minutes ago. To me, those are the top two bets on Underdog, and I'm happy to bet those. And so that is going to be the bet of the day for Underdog, just to make it clear. So Marcus Stroman for over his fantasy score, Tanner Beebe for over his fantasy score. Again, if you guys use that and you guys have, or want to use that and you guys have never signed up for Underdog, hit the promo code 9to5 on there. They'll give you a 100% match on a deposit up to $100. Now with that, let's go ahead and get into the PrizePicks MLB props. Those are going to be decent today as well. So it seems like every slate, George Springer is popping up as a good one. I like his over fantasy score. I'm going to be using that one. We got Crawford for under fantasy score, pitching fantasy score, which is one I don't exactly like because he's been someone that has been pitching well thus far this season, but I don't mind that one. But going back to Springer, we can see the Underdog line would have this more valued at 7.4. So that is a slight edge that we are getting there. Again, if we can make the best decisions possible on each slate from each sportsbook, let's do that. Another one that a lot of people are on today is going to be Mike Trout for over his fantasy score of 7.5. I can get behind that. We got Marte for over his hitting fantasy score. Again, compared to Underdog, that's a decent edge that we are getting, but you guys can see we are gaining a lot of decent prop bets as well. We got Otone for over his fantasy score. That's another decent one. So yeah, a lot of quality bets today in the MLB. And I'll show you guys that bet of the day as well. Actually, let's do that right now. Let's do the bet of the day for MLB. And I think I'm going to get an NBA one out to you guys as well. And then we'll just get into a separate coverage for the Masters. And guys, just real quickly, I realized I misspoke with Crawford here. He has not pitched. I was actually thinking of Bradford there, who has had 2 good starts. I don't know how I got that confused. Apologies there. Just want to make that clear. All right, so here's one that I don't mind for NBA. Again, these were the 3 best fantasy score prop bets that we were getting. Mikal Bridges has been very streaky, but this is a good matchup going against Toronto. I think that's why the data likes it. That's really the analysis there for NBA. Let's go ahead and jump into MLB. So MLB, just a quick 5 slip bet here. These are just the top 5 prop bets that are currently popping up on the board. That could change throughout the day, but that is just how it currently sits. So 3 bets today, actually 4 if you guys include some of the Goblin ones. That's up for you. That's up to your guys' discretion how you guys want to go about attacking that. But with that, let's go ahead and get into the Masters props right now. And just as an FYI, guys, I do plan to do a video on the 9to5 Golf YouTube channel going more in depth to these fantasy score or to these PGA prop bets. Just as an FYI, this is just going to be highlighting them. So the biggest thing I want to call out to you guys is that the weather could play a difference in terms of scoring. So right now it's projected to be pretty windy in round 1 and round 2 of the Masters, but also there could be a weather delay due to lightning in round 1, which would really throw off maybe some projected edges because we don't know when the rounds would then take place or finish up in round 1. What I want to call out here is that some of these prop bets where we're getting a decent prop line difference here, like VJ Singh and Fred Couples, I really don't mind the idea of running both bets out on both sites, because I really think with those two specifically, it's either going to be the course plays easier than expected, and some of these older guys that aren't good golfers anymore but can still shoot 5 over par, you know, not that shouldn't be that difficult for them to do. I don't mind betting the under on underdog, or the course is going to play extremely tough and those guys struggle, and then you just bet the over on underdog. That should at least be to lead to some sort of profitability for you guys. From there, let's just call some other prop line differences as well. I mean, Brooks Koepka, this is another instance where you could do it. Brooks Koepka and Hideki for under their strokes, you could bet those on under or on PrizePicks, bet the unders, which I don't mind that. I would say those lines are definitely interesting that they're there. And then you could bet the over on underdog. I really don't mind that idea. From there, though, we're going to see the edge is definitely interesting from what we are getting here, because we're getting so many at 3 for fantasy score, or for 3 birdies or better, apologies. And I find that fascinating, because the average sportsbook line, which is just taking in the lines from both PrizePicks and Underdog and the historical average of how this tournament has played, how many birdies are average per round, and it's about 3.5. And we're getting some of the better golfers in the field at 3 birdies. Like, in terms of who's projected to play well, Shane Lowry and Matt Fitzpatrick project much better than Akshay, Jason Day, Colin Morikawa, for instance, as well. And so those two have such a good chance to at least make it a push, which a push would be them getting to 3 birdies. Now, I will say getting to 4 birdies, probably not as likely, but the fact that we could probably get those as a push at the very least is intriguing to me. I really don't mind that idea. And so that's how I'd go about attacking that for PrizePicks. Now, hopefully they come out with some more prop bets, because Underdog has been lapping them this week, because Underdog has had these props out since Sunday, whereas PrizePicks just came out with theirs not too long ago. So I do want to call this out as well. If you wanted to run Phil Mickelson for over 2.5 birdies on PrizePicks, you can. It's really not a bad bet. And Tiger for that instance as well. Underdog is valuing them at 3. I would say those are decent. I really don't mind that idea. But in terms of edge, we are projected to get a decent amount of prop bets that have a decent amount of edge on Underdog. So again, this is telling us to bet the under, because it's compared to how the tournament has played on average. And a lot of these old golfers we don't have that much data on, so the data is it is a little bit skewed, just as an FYI, because we don't have that much data going in. Like, looking at the projection, it's not accurate. That's the workaround with the golf props that we have to do with some golfers that are just, these are old-time golfers. They don't have any data points going to the PGA Tour, whereas all the other golfers where we do, it's just easier to predict, just as an FYI. So again, I think betting the over on Underdog for those two makes sense if you are betting the under on PrizePicks to hopefully just get a net profit. I think that's a good way to go about doing that. From there, again, Matt Fitzpatrick, Jason Day, don't mind those. But we're getting some fantasy score ones. Sam Burns for over his fantasy score. He's a guy that can get hot. Making some birdies, I don't mind that. If you guys want to go Phil and Tiger for over their fantasy score, have some fun with it, you could. That's fine. But we are getting a decent amount of prop bets that on paper have a strong likelihood to be a push. I mean, all these spots where we got golfers for 3 birdies or better, like Corey Connors is a great play on paper. Like, that is crazy to me. So I'm not going to give it exactly a bet of the day out right now for PrizePicks or Underdog. I'm going to save that for the 9 to 5 golf video. But I know you guys want to make some golf bets. So I want to give you guys that coverage on this channel, the main channel as well. That is going to be all for today's video. Make sure to give a like and subscribe to the channel. If you guys want access to the 9to5sports.com tools, head on over to 9to5sports.com. They are available for just $10 a month. Thanks for watching, guys. Good luck today. And as always, let's keep cashing.